Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Rajon Rondo cannot fight.
I don't know about that.
That was the worst punch I've ever seen.
If you ask our producer, he thinks that every single professional athlete can fight. He believes that because he picks his fights like cockfights. He looks at these guys like, man, they look athletic.
I'm sorry, I don't think you can beat up Draymond Green or Cam Chancellor, man.
Did you watch Rajon Rondo?
He's actually Cam Chancellor.
You give me Phoenix Sun Charles Barkley, he'll beat up every player in the NBA right
Absolutely.
Drake, could you beat up Phoenix Sun Charles Barkley?
No.
Ooh, I wouldn't pick Drake in that one.
Because he knew how to fight. Did you watch those old school fights?
But Drake, all you do is take him down, though.
Nolan Ryan.
All you do is take him down.
Nolan Ryan.
All you do is take him down.
But he knew how to fight.
But he
He didn't know how to fight. I don't know.
Did you watch Nolan Ryan? How many baseball players since Nolan Ryan have you seen that can fight?
Joe Kelly?
Okay, Joe Kelly, he's just mean.
I'm looking him up for next week, and I'll give a breakdown on Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly's just mean.
Nolan Ryan, headlock punches, the greatest fighting move of all time.
Have you ever seen a professional athlete after the year 2007 that you were scared of? That was not a mixed martial artist or anything of that sort, boxer, outside of that realm. Have you seen one?
No.
No. They don't
Not for J.J. Watt.
They don't make
J.J. Watt doesn't scare you.
J.J. Watt's too nice of a guy to be a fighter.
Okay.
But guys, we're gonna have some fun things to talk about today. That's kind of one of them. We're gonna actually talk about something that Leighton C. and I learned about Shackelford this weekend. Kind of bizarre. Probably won't surprise any of you. We're going to talk about maybe the first MMA trade that I've ever heard in my life. And we'll talk about Leighton's boy Chuck hitting the mitts. We'll also get down to Volkan Ozdemir. Fights Anthony Smith this weekend. UFC Fight Night should be really, really good Saturday. But before we get to any of this, Leighton C., producer, you know what to do. Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a Sauce on the Side production. All right, Shackelford, we're putting you in the hot seat, okay?
What is it?
This weekend, you texted our producer, Leighton C., told him that you had a little bit of a surprise for him. That you had 2 boxes of VHSs that you were going to come drop off at the house.
I don't even own a VCR, but knowing me, I can't pay the opportunity to get free entertainment. So I'm like, yeah, I'll find VCR somewhere. I'll take them.
Yeah, in case any of the millennials out there don't know what this is, a VHS is it's basically a cassette tape that you can watch. If you don't know what a cassette
really
tape
big
is,
cassette tape.
Yes, you can.
Are there actually
spin it.
people that don't know what a VHS is?
Are you serious?
My nieces are 14 and 9 years old. There's no way to know what VHS is.
Yeah, your children are the only ones
I
that
might as
know
well
what they
drive
are.
off a bridge on the way home.
Yeah, no, our world's in trouble. But the best part of this whole thing is, so Leighton C., he's thumbing through these things.
Probably 40 movies.
Yeah, 30 or 40 movies. You know, a decent amount, but we're going to kind of put it into perspective. Leighton's running through them, and he said, I have all these movies on every platform you can have them on. I have only these movies on VHS, and they were evenly divided out. And Leighton grabs the third pile and says, and these are all Steven Seagal movies.
8 Steven Seagal movies out of 30 or 40. It started with, the first box had, 2 or 3. I'm like, man, this is a lot of Steven Seagal movies. I'm going to just make this pile, see how high it can get. I'm thinking it caps out at 5. I'm thinking, okay, there's no way he has, double the 3 in the first box. But second box, like Steven Seagal Gold Mine.
Yeah.
You have 80 of these things.
You weren't even trying to be funny. You picked him up just point. You just like, hey, did you realize he had this gold mine of Steven Seagal movies?
Those were given to me by Those were given to me by my buddy who loves Steven Seagal. I like Steven Seagal.
You don't say.
Glimmerman, Hard to Kill, and maybe like Above the Law. Even like Under Siege, those 4 I'm down with.
Drake,
I've never seen any other ones. I've never seen even the second ones to those other ones.
Drake, do you remember whenever used to go with any video Blockbuster and
You watched The
everything?
Patriot?
Yes.
He was in there.
You go to Blockbuster or whatever your video store was the day of thing came out, and it was never there because somebody always got it.
Yes.
That was Thomas with every Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah, no, he was the first man in the line, and the best part was I sent him a Snapchat, just a video of like what the hell was going on, and he immediately like is texting me like ferociously defending his honor, and he says, by the way, like after he had defended everything about the fact that he had 8 Steven Seagal VHSs, he said, I kept my 2 favorites at home. So out of all that collection, you had 10.
I think
Steven
I
Seagal
kept
movies.
Glimmer Man with one of the Wayans brothers and Above the Law are the 2 I kept at home.
Yeah.
I actually really do love those. To defend myself a little bit, again, they weren't mine. They were given to me by a lover of Seagal. But I am a huge fan of the late 80s, early to mid 90s action hero. The Stallones, the Van Dammes, the Arnolds, the
Seagal.
Swayzes, the Seagal. That was the best time ever for movies. Be it horror, action, comedy.
So you've seen every Expendable.
I actually have. I'm not proud of that one.
I wouldn't be either.
I'm in love with that idea, though. And you know what's funny? As I tell Leighton, I said, how many movies Seagal been in? Man, he goes, man, it can't be much. And
I'm thinking of 20 max.
What's his IMDb, like 50?
Well, his IMDb had like, I think it was close to 40.
Oh,
but the thing is that some of them were like The Patriot, where he wasn't even like the main dude.
Like Mel Gibson, the Patriot?
Yes, Mel Gibson.
He was in there?
Yes.
Yes.
This is like Jean-Claude in Predator, like you never knew it. He was there for like a day.
Yeah, that's basically how this was. So you think out of those 40 movies, he didn't star in probably 8 of them, and then now we're down to like 32, and then the fact that half of them were after VHS has stopped being made. So I'm willing to say you own every single Steven Seagal movie on VHS. I'm putting that flag in the sand. That's it.
Well, actually,
I don't own them anymore.
No, you
Leighton
don't.
owns them now.
Did you watch the one back to Bill Simmons tape?
I do have to get this Richard Simmons
tape. Bill Simmons is a sports analyst for the Ringer.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. No. His wife doesn't want to sit there and listen to somebody scream about Boston sports for 3 hours.
I do have to get the Richard Simmons back. That was a family heirloom on my wife's side that I have to get back.
A family heirloom?
I can't tell
her
you
family gave it to her, and they watched it when they were kids.
What family watches Richard Simmons tape?
I don't know. I don't ask questions. I barely know this woman. The movies I gave you, I'm just making some space in my house, getting rid of stuff. I probably got about 5 times as much still at my house. But that was a big step for me, getting rid of like 40 movies. So
I would say my favorite ones are High Fidelity and the what's the name? Bill and Ted's Adventures.
Excellent. And I gave you both of those.
You did. that was clutch.
What a kind guy.
That's right. I think I gave you an Evil Dead in
Sling
there.
Blade.
You gave me
a
Sling Blade.
Shake
You
blade.
Sling
I
Blade.
told him when I gave him, I said, look, 95% of these you're going to get a little hard on for.
Yeah. Was the Labyrinth in there? Because that was my favorite VHS.
I don't think Labyrinth was in there. The one about witches or something.
The Blair Witch Project.
That was in there.
Now,
that was
intense.
clutch.
That's intense. I went and seen that in the theater with my buddies. I actually thought that was a real thing. Like, I remember being
Anybody
so
did. That's a
scared
huge
in
deal.
there, and people were like laughing. I'm like, oh, we're watching these people die. Like, what are you laughing about? That movie blew me away. So
Still had the whole found footage.
I believed every second of it.
Second one sucked.
I didn't even watch it.
Yep, probably know it existed.
If the first one is so good, and I even smell an inkling of the second one being a Hollywood sellout, I won't even come near it.
The Godfather.
I actually just watched The Godfather about a month ago for the first time ever.
Freaking
It was good.
amazing,
I
yeah.
heard 2 was better though, wasn't it?
I think 1's better. Two is still very good. I think 1's better.
All the diehards were in that.
I also had the first three Die Hards on VHS I now own.
I did. I bought that at a consignment sale probably less than 2 years ago. I seen that. I was like, I have to have all the Die Hards.
You pick it up, you're like, my favorite Christmas movie.
Exactly. It's Christmas is just around the corner. That's your Christmas present.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
It's his favorite Christmas present from Shackleton.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.
I love that. All right, you want to talk a little bit about fights?
Let's, we'll jump to the fights. We'll start up a media podcast some other time.
Yeah, I'm definitely not to be one of the guys who's been talking about a ton of movies, but whenever you bring over a box of VHSs and drop them at Leighton's front porch, we have to bring it up.
He thought they were going to be nudie movies.
Oh yeah,
he's like, it's a big box of nudes, isn't it? And I said, no, man, I wouldn't get rid of those.
he picked up one of the VHSs, and it just had, like, you know how they have the little label on them where you can write something on there?
Yeah.
There was nothing else on it. It just said AB. And
okay.
Leighton looks at me and he goes, holy shit, he put a porno in here.
It's actually a workout video for an AB band, the wrestling band.
Oh, no kidding.
I got it when I went to the quote-unquote World Championships up in Detroit. It's a workout band for wrestling. So I'm sorry, LC.
Now I have that.
I'm gonna guarantee he already knew what it was about because he
Googled it.
Yeah, no, he checked it out. He popped it in the VHS just to give it a little spin. Oh, man.
Good time.
That's good. So UFC and One fighting promotions. One is basically, we just talked about them last week. They had just signed Eddie Alvarez to a deal. We talked about how they pay their fighters really well. They're a promotion over in Asia. Sounds like they might be in the works with the UFC making a trade. Something I've never heard in MMA before. They may be trading Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson for. I was reading Demetrius.
This is
Jackson's
why we're trading him.
today.
This is why we're trading him because we don't know his name.
Demetrius Johnson trading him for Ben Askren. Maybe the best wrestler in MMA. A lot of people have been pulling for Ben Askren to be in. And he even came out with his own little music video, which was awesome to show Dana White. What do you think about this move? It's bizarre.
I've never heard of a trade within promotions before. We did get, and I was thinking about making this Leighton's homework, the producer's homework. But at one point, and this was when the UFC was kind of floundering a little bit in early 2000s, they sent Chuck Liddell over to Pride. And Dana actually bet like $100,000 of his own money that Chuck was going to end up fighting Vanderlei and beat Vanderlei and win the money. That's really as far as that I've ever seen. Now, Pride was supposed to send people over to UFC, but that never happened. They later folded because the freaking Yakuza was running the show. Anyways, no, I have never heard of a promotion to promotion trade. Now, I mentioned that Rich Franklin is one of the main guys running One. He's like the North American head of the company. My only guess is, I got two guesses on this. This essentially means they're going to fold the 125-pound division. It's done. He defended the belt 11 times. He lost a razor-thin decision to Henry Cejudo. Didn't even talk about a rematch. All they talked about was Cejudo bumping up to face Dillashaw. Dillashaw even actually, I heard him say that. He's like, the only thing I can think is they want him to come up because they're going to fold 25. And when I heard it, I thought, well, that's, 25's got some pretty good guys, but it makes sense. They're getting rid of the GOAT, like one of the guys in the GOAT talk of MMA, and they're sending him away. So to me, there's no way the 125-pound division stays in the UFC. And as far as just person to person, I think this works out really good for both sides. Because, Ben Askren was wanting to come to UFC, but essentially he fights like Khabib, which always blew my mind about Khabib. People love Khabib so much. But really, he fights exactly like Ben Askren.
Just not as good.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody gets up when Ben Askren has him down. That's the difference.
Ben Askren gets 5 takedowns in a 5-round fight because you're on the ground the whole fight.
Yes. So to me, the thing was, Dana always said, well, he's boring. Nobody wants to watch him. Well, Bellator essentially let him go because he beat the shit out of everyone on the roster. They couldn't find anybody to beat him. And that's not necessarily great for ratings. And that's kind of where Demetrius was at, too. But, so here we are. We get Ben Askren's going to come over. Now, he's probably going to come over under the same contract, money-wise, as he did with one. So he's keeping his money. He's keeping the money he wants. He's getting in the promotion he wants. And honestly, I don't know anybody in the 70-pound division that'll beat him. He's not going to fight Woodley. That's the only thing. Him and Woodley are like best buds, training partners. And then Demetrius. In Japan, in Asia in general, those little guys, they're loved more than anybody. And, you know, we could go full racism or whatever you want to call it here. They're little in Asia.
Yeah.
If you're 5 foot tall, you're the biggest sumbitch I ever saw. It's kind of like the Desperado or whatever when Cheech Marin's talking about the dude being the biggest Mexican he ever saw. And he's like, he's 5'9", 5'10", big for a Mexican, but not the biggest. That's, in Asia, those small guys, they have a lot more taste for the small, technical, speedy guys than we do here in America. So I think it's win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
One gets the best fighter of all time in the conversation, and he's a little guy, and he's American, and he's respectful, and he's everything they're going to want.
He's great.
And we get Ben Askren, who's really good at trash talk, has a really, really, really big underground following like the Diaz brothers, and he's a good fighter. It's like there's no bad deal here. I don't see anything about it that's bad. It just blows my mind that it's happening.
I thought Thomas keeps referring to UFC as we.
Did I say we?
Oh yeah.
Every time you talk about UFC,
I'm a part of the UFC. I've been grandfathered in.
You've been grandfathered in. No,
I just meant we as the fans.
Yes, no.
We as the fans.
As the fans, because we follow the UFC more than any other promotion,
Yeah.
Like, whenever I talk about the NFL, I hold the shield, baby. I am the shield holder for the NFL. I might get that tattooed on my bicep because I protect the shield. So I understand why you say it. I do. Because it is your promotion. It is the promotion that you watch. But here we go. This is why Ben Askren's coming over. Let me read you this, okay? Heavyweight, lightweight champion, Daniel Cormier. What is he?
Old, about to retire.
Also, what is he? What's he most known for?
Wrestler.
Okay. Tyrone Woodley.
Wrestler.
Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Bad wrestler. Eat that, Russia.
TJ Dillashaw.
Wrestler. Mostly a striker now, but wrestler.
Henry Cejudo.
Wrestler.
Of those guys that are wrestlers, TJ Dillashaw is the only one that can stand. I mean, DC can throw a bomb.
Yeah, DC's got some decent stand-up, but I absolutely see what you're saying.
They're all wrestlers.
Yeah.
We have 1 division, 2 division, 3 division, 4 division, 5 divisions.
The only one that's not is Whitaker.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, Whitaker's the only guy that doesn't have an extensive wrestling background in all those champions.
Yes, and I
Whitaker and Holloway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Whitaker and Holloway. That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. And all those guys are extensive wrestling. That's the only reason why Ben Askren's there.
It's probably, I wonder also this, like, the fans were really... There's been a lot of pushback against Dana about Ben Askren, 'cause
That was years ago, though.
Well, but I don't think it was, because Ben's really big on social media, too. He's got a ton of followers. He does like Rudis. He does a bunch of like Mental Mondays, a ton of stuff for wrestling. So he's got all that side, and it's like the tides turn. And maybe this is because of Khabib and all these wrestlers winning. But when he was destroying all those dudes in Bellator and they let him go and Dana didn't want him, that was always the thing. Like, oh, he only takes people down and makes these boring fights. Well, then he went over to ONE and he really mauled dudes. And he got really, really good at not just taking guys down and beating them by decision, but just finally getting a bunch of stoppages in a row. And the fans were like, hey, it's almost like the Eddie Alvarez. He was the other one, there's some underground guys. There's some guys not in that big promotion that the fans do kind of go nuts over and give these people crap. And I think with the combination of, and this is just a prediction, and the only thing I've heard that on was TJ Dillashaw just mentioning it on a podcast. I got to think the 125-pound division is leaving. So what better way to get rid of it than to give the biggest star over to them and then get somebody back over for less price than what you were paying for Dimitri? You know what I'm saying? So they're not losing anything. They're giving up a contract, and they're getting a contract that probably costs less. And they get the kind of the underground, the guy that was the best that never got his shot type thing.
Yeah, once he comes over, like, what do you think would be the first fight for Ben Askren? Because
they won't give him an easy fight. Because I guarantee Dana's still pissed about that video where he made fun of him for being bald and fat.
No, I'm actually looking at Ben Askren's little Wikipedia page, because that's where you're supposed to do all your research on people. Disc Golf, Professional Disc Golf Association, 2011. He got second place in the United States Amateur Disc Golf Championships.
That's probably what got him in. All those nerdy college kids disc golfing. You know,
That's awesome.
I'm going to make this prediction right now. I can see. You know what fight I can see in my head right now for him?
What is
Robbie
that?
Lawler.
Oh,
Because I bet you
I like that.
that's a big name, and that's a kind of a tough fight for him too. Because Robbie can wrestle better than most people think, and I guarantee Dana wants to see Ben Askren knocked out. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So Robbie had that ACL tear against Dos Anjos. You know, we're probably coming up on like a year or so on that. So if he's going to be ready to fight in the next couple months, 4, 5, 6 months, I wouldn't doubt that we see him against Askren. I could see him throwing Covington his way. I could see a Damian Maia coming his way.
I think a Covington would be a fun
It's
fight.
going to be a top 5 guy. There's no way they give him a below top 5.
I think it'll be a striker, though.
I think it'll be whatever the toughest matchup at the time, because Dana doesn't like him. Dana came out a million times and said he doesn't like him. I think that they will make sure that he gets a tough matchup.
I think that Dana's going to jump into, like, I think he's going to respect Ben Askren's wrestling, because Dana White is a smart guy. Like, whenever you boil it down, Dana White knows fights, and if he throws him a wrestler, like, that's just feeding right into Ben Askren's game. Like, Ben Askren's going to...
Nobody's going to out-wrestle him. And a lot of people are talking about Khabib. I'll tell you the two that I've heard the most, even before this popped, was people wanting to see Ben Askren versus Khabib and GSP. Which, to me, I still think GSP beats both those guys pretty easily. He's athletic.
He's just well-rounded.
He's too well-rounded. His stand-up's too good. His wrestling's too good to get taken down. And his jiu-jitsu game to get up's better. Plus, he's probably bigger than... Well, Ben's probably a little bigger than him, but I think GSP still beats both of them pretty handily. But, yeah, I would... You know, if it's not a Khabib, a GSP, I'm going to look at like a Lawler or a Damian Maia. Maybe even like a Jorge Masvidal. He's been having a really hard time getting fights. So there's some that's kind of dream fights, Khabib and GSP, and then probably the three most likely to me would be, you know, a Robbie, a Maia, or the Masvidal fight.
I think the Robbie fight makes a ton of sense.
That would be a big sell. I guarantee that would be a big sell.
In case you guys are just sheer UFC homers, Ben Askren, just trust us. He's the best wrestler in MMA. And I'm running through this. Like, Khabib, he wins in decisions more often than not. And the same could be said for Askren. But that was extremely early in his career. His last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5 of his last 7 fights, one was a no decision because of an eye poke. Only one of those fights went to the decision. Yeah. Only one of his last
guy
second.
was the really weird one. That guy weighed in at like 200 pounds, and they like gave him a stipulation, like if you made like 190, I'll still fight you. And the first time the fight happened, the guy made weight, and the guy kept saying Ben was poking him or something. And then the second time they were supposed to fight, that guy came in like 20 pounds overweight. They gave him like a certain time limit to make another weight. And then Ben Askren said he saw him at a buffet. He said he had already weighed in and he was just chilling out, and that guy was hammering food at a buffet. The guy didn't want to fight him because it was like a weird fight. He stopped a couple of Askren's takedowns, and then the eye pokes happened, so people were like, this guy's Ben Askren's dynamite. So like that dude was kind of riding off into the sunset on a fluke win. Or a fluke draw or whatever it ended up being.
That's not a bad thing to be, though. Go down in the books as Ben Askren's
if you fought this guy that you know was going to smash you and you lucked out and poked his eyes out and just got a DQ or whatever, and the next time you just blow, you hit Sizzla and blow weight and, and just say, I had some hormone trouble.
John Jones even has a kryptonite. Matt Hamill.
Oh, I thought you were going to say dick pills.
No. Matt Hamill. Couldn't beat him.
Yeah, couldn't beat him.
Had to cheat. That could be said for all of Jones's fights, I guess. So, another little tidbit we got here. You tagged the producer in a disheartening video. Chuck Liddell hitting mitts. Either he's not showing what he has, or that's all he has.
The producer said he's honey dicking us. I don't know how he can get a license. It did look like skill work. So, there's a difference between pad work for conditioning, pad work for timing, timing and rhythm, and then just learning. He did look like it was just kind of a learning because the guy was like, hit your right, pause for a second, hit your front kick. But it just didn't. Gosh dang! It didn't look good. It looked like a 50-year-old man hitting mitts. He looked tired. Now maybe he ran 45 miles and swam from the Rock or whatever in San Francisco. But no, probably not. I mean,
no. He looked like what he is.
He looked weathered, and I'll tell you, I've seen some videos of him talking. He does not talk the same as he used to. He is punchy. And if you don't know what punchy is, watch some old videos of Chuck, and he talked. It was a grumbly voice, but he was clean, he was clear, he was intelligent, and his eyes were sharp. And watch videos of him now, and he's mumbling, is even more gravelly. His eyes don't look right. I cannot believe this fight's getting signed.
Yeah, neither can I.
And Tito looks amazing. Have you seen videos of him?
Oh, dude, no, I watched Tito's last few fights.
From 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The dude, he hasn't aged a day.
No, he hasn't. And it's unbelievable, dude. Like, in his Chael Sonnen fight, like, he just mopped him.
Yeah, and he's mopped a handful of dudes. Leighton said he bet like $30 on it. I don't know what in the hell he was thinking. He didn't listen to me. I'm rooting for Chuck. Chuck's my boy, but I ain't watching that fight, and I don't even know if I'll look it up afterwards.
Yeah, no, that'll be $50. Not well spent. I can say that. So we do have some fights this weekend. We actually do have UFC fight night this weekend. Volkan Ozdemir, Anthony Smith, they're headlining the fight. I've kind of came on before and talked about how much Anthony Smith impresses me. He just looks like a guy who at some point will put everything together, and I think right now he is in his fighting prime. Has a ton of fights for a guy that I don't even think he's eclipsed 30 yet. He has had 43 mixed martial arts fights compared to Volkan's 17. It's going to be a good night of fights. There are actually a lot of pretty decent-sized names on this card. We have Volkan, we have Smith, Michael Johnson, Artem Lobov, Patrick Cummings, Gian Villante, a lot of good names. We'll start it off at the top. I kind of want you to give a breakdown on the Volkan Ozdemir Anthony Smith fight. Anthony Smith is a plus 140 dog to Ozdemir's minus 175. Where are you leaning in this fight, and how do you think it's going to go?
I don't know what to make of this one a little bit. We got Anthony Smith. He's kind of had a bunch of good fights at 85, but then when he moved up to 205, he could stop cutting that weight. He looked so much better. Man, he's got the killer instinct. He's got those knees. He's got the elbows. His Muay Thai is really good. The only thing I see wrong with him is he really likes to engage in those firefights, and it's cost him a few times. Now Ozdemir, he fought DC for the title. I believe he's had 4 fights in the UFC, and he's ended 3 of them. 5 fights, he's ended 3 of them within like a minute. One went almost the distance or something, and then the DC lost. But he didn't look horrible against DC. He stopped a couple takedowns, was hitting DC with some really hard punches. I don't know what to make of him. I did watch his fights. So he fought that Misha, who's also on this card, Misha Serkinov or whatever. It looked like a ghost punch. He almost looked like he just barely touched that guy on the back of the ear, and that guy looked like he got shot by a gun. And I watched it multiple times, and even Dan Hardy was like, oh, he must have crazy power in his hands for a shot that looked that simple to hurt him. It just... here's how I see this fight going. Smith comes out crazy strong, and Ozdemir, who's more of just a boxer, kind of staying in a shell and hitting Smith when he's coming in on a flurry. Either way it goes, this isn't going the distance. Neither of these guys are distance fighters. This
won't make it through the second round.
Yeah, I don't think it will make it even to the second round. I am gonna go with no time. I am gonna go with Ozdemir just because he's had a couple bigger fights. He did have the huge fight with DC. Who else? He fought one other person that was pretty high level, I felt like. And then the other guys were mid-level. So I'm picking him just off his experience and his weird power that seems to put people asleep just off the most ridiculous shot. So I can tell you that you said the odds were Smith was a dog. I think a lot of people are going to pick Smith late because it almost just feels like his time. Like he's had all this build-up. They kind of need a new face. He could be the face. But I am going to pick no time Ozdemir.
That surprises me, honestly.
Yeah, it's not a great pick, I guess, because when you look at like Smith, you think, well, he's got knees, elbows, kicks, punches. His clinch is pretty good, whereas Ozdemir's kind of just got punches. So, when I'm breaking these down and look at them, I kind of always think that, if one guy's got 5 routes to victory and the other guy's got 1, I usually will lean to the guy with the more routes of victory, but just in this case, I think the style that Smith fights, I think plays right into that guy's one super strength.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick against the grain on that one though. I love Anthony Smith, man. Like there's just something about him. Like since he's been at light heavyweight, his last 2 fights, he hasn't even fought 3 minutes yet.
Yeah, and I mean he KO'd 2 legends. He KO'd Shogun and.
But I feel like those are with a grain of salt. You have to take those with a grain of salt because he wasn't getting the best Rashad Evans. He wasn't getting the best Shogun. But I think this is going to be the fight where it's we're getting his name out there. Yeah. We're taking the guy who not too many people have probably heard of. I mean, I would say that as far as casual fan goes, most of them have heard of Vulcan. Yeah. He did fight DC. But basically nobody has probably heard of Anthony Smith. Like, they're going to think he's basically like a created fighter on the UFC video game,
Yeah.
Just with a bunch of sick tattoos. I really like Anthony Smith. I know Leighton C really liked him because he
heart
had
of a champion.
Yes, the heart of the lion heart.
Yeah,
the heart of a lion. He's a tough dude, and I think that this is going to be a great fight. I'm going to be glued in on this fight because I do really like Anthony Smith. I think that he's going to win this fight, though. I really do.
I can see it, man. I can see it. I know I always say that when you disagree with me. Sometimes I'm like, no, I can't see it. But this time I can see it. But I just think that it's no time.
Yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be a good fight either way. It's one of those fights you can draw a line to victory for both guys.
Yeah,
and it's early.
Yeah,
so you're going to be entertained because it's going to be quick.
Within 5 minutes, one of these dudes are going to be asleep.
No, I agree. So kind of lower on the second to last fight that we have in the night, Michael Johnson, Artem Lobov, and then we have Misha Kroknov. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
You okay?
Misha.
Misha. Yeah, that's
the
what I
dude
was.
that No Time knocked out. That's why I'm picking Pat Cummins, because No Time looked like he was just like scratching the back of the guy's ear for him, and that guy fell down like he got shot with a freaking elephant gun.
Yeah, in Vulcan, the fight that I remember a lot of Vulcan was the split decision with OSP, and I think that I think that Anthony Smith is kind of like that lengthy, just really tough dude, and I think I put him a step above OSP just from a skill perspective, and I mean the guy's had 43 freaking fights before he's 30. Like he's got to catch fire. You know what I'm saying? I think he's right in the middle of that. But from a betting perspective, we'll only talk about that. On this Artem Lobov versus Michael Johnson, then we have Misha versus Patrick Cummings. Both Lobov is a plus 400 dog, and Patrick Cummings is a plus 330 dog. I feel like from a betting perspective, you should just throw a few bucks on both the dogs, because I don't know if both are going to win, but I think one of those guys are going to win.
You know, Lobov right now is he not the most loved guy in the UFC right now?
Has to be. He's a 500 fighter, and he's second
he's like
last on the card.
14-14, almost won the Ultimate Fighter. But I'm saying, after Khabib slapped him, so think about this. Him and Khabib get in it over some political bullshit. Khabib and his cronies slap him. He texts Conor. Big bro Conor flies over from Ireland, goes
the
bananas.
Best friend in the world.
Lobov loses a fight. He wasn't involved in the bus attack. He wasn't even there, but he lost his fight on that card. Now he gets a fight with this other guy. Then the Conor Khabib fight happens. The guy he's supposed to fight jumps the fence, gets in a fight with Conor, gets kicked out of the UFC, whatever's going to happen. He loses another fight. People are just like, they want this guy to get a win. Like, this guy's had so many losses in a row that weren't even losses in the cage, that the people want him to get a win. And never forget the choo-choo MFers, the Russian trains coming.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I could see him winning. I don't think Johnson's insanely better than him. I just think Lobov's plan is always, hey, I'll take 5 shots to give him 1, and that just doesn't pan out a lot of the times. So I had originally thought Johnson, but if he's that big of a dog, and Cummins is a dog, you know, if Smith, Cummins, and Lobov are a dog, I would bet all 3 of those down. You know, if you put $20 on that, put all 3 of those down, and they all pull off the win, I could easily see all 3 of those guys winning just as easily, especially Pat Cummins. But I could see those guys winning just as easily as the other guy, and they're the dogs. So
yeah, I absolutely love. I think this is going to be the night where the dogs howl. Like,
yeah,
you know how
that's why I will watch this card. Actually, now those 3 guys I like, and there is the John Vellante versus the Ed Herman fight. But really, just to see if the dogs win is why I'll watch this.
Yeah, because I think that this is the first time in a while where we've actually had big spreads on these fights, and the dogs actually have a route to victory in every single one of them.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be hammering the dogs. I think you guys. I think it'd be smart to definitely hammer the dogs in this situation. Just because if one of them pops, like, you're really not going to lose any money. If they all pop, you're going to be sitting pretty. Any other fights other than the 3 that we've kind of talked about?
I mean, the whole card. I'm sure they're going to be good fights. This is one of those It's a fight night, so it's free, right?
Yes.
So it's a free card. I'm sure the fights are going to be good. But it's not a ton of nameage on there, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this. I think it's one of the better free cards I mean, it seems like the free cards are always just like top, whatever we just saw.
They're just dogs, man. They just fight.
Yes,
you know?
they fight. They fight.
You almost get people whose skills are more close to each other. So most of the time, because they're not used to getting any spotlight at all, they usually really fight it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this card. Anything else in the MMA world or maybe the wrestling world? I know you talked about the World Championships last week. The USA actually had a pretty good showing. So if you kind of want to go through and just pat those guys on the back real quick before we wrap this up, then probably bring it full circle.
So yeah, we don't have it all. We don't have all the results. The men's freestyle has wrapped up. The men's freestyle is wrapped up, and the women's has began. the Greco hasn't started yet, but I want to say, so we had our best men's freestyle team come out of there that I can ever remember. So let me just run this down. So we'll start with the little guys, if I can find them. Kyle Snyder, our big guy. So Gwiz got third. Kyle Snyder, runner-up. Now that match was basically like match of the century. Like, that was the most looked forward to match in a long time. Snyder beat that Sotolev, that big Russian, last year in the World Championships to win his gold and the team gold. That dude pinned him in a minute the other day. Got a shot in on him. Snyder kind of did a chest lock, and the dude just did an elbow pinch and sit out, put him on his back, pinned him. Jaden Cox got a gold. David Taylor got a gold. Kyle Dake outscored the world 37-0. He didn't get a single point scored on him.
That's not a bad week for wrestling.
Hell no. Jordan Burroughs got third. So the guy that beat him, the Russian, they were basically in a tie match. He was winning on criteria with like 5 seconds left. He got taken down. The only weight class we really just got smoked on was like the 70 kilograms and the 65 kilograms, which I think was Gilman. Thomas Gilman ended up getting fifth. The other one was Logan Stieber. I think he went 0-2. The big surprise for America was a dude named Joe Colon. Didn't even make the world team. He got second at the team trials. I guess this guy got hurt or whatever. He freaking pulls a third place medal. So out of like the 11 weights I think there is, we had 9 medals and one guy get fifth.
That's unheard of.
And we still got second place. Russia had it locked up. They basically beat us by 1 medal. They had 1 more gold than us, but everything else was equal. So as far as the girls, they started today. Adeline Gray did win in the base weight class. She did win a gold. Helen Malarus, the one we were talking about, she did not. She lost her first match and I believe got put out. So, hey, shout out to Flow Wrestling for being the biggest dickheads on earth. Soon as she got done wrestling, one of the guys behind the camera said, do you really think about it? Is this the end of it for you? It makes her cry. Girl just world champion last year. I guess she had a string of bad concussions over the year. And this is her first tournament back, basically. And so he's basically asking her, because of these concussions, because of this loss, are you done? She starts bawling. Biggest dickhead award goes to Flow Wrestling. Second biggest dickhead award goes to USA Wrestling and Track Wrestling for basically monopolizing this and making sure nobody can watch it. I didn't get to watch one single match. Nobody follows wrestling that I know more than me, and all I could catch up on was articles and 20-second clips. So
yeah, no, I think Flow Wrestling 9 times out of 10 in big wrestling events they get the Dickhead Award.
Just a quick breakdown of it. They'll tell you, hey, you pay us $25 a month to get this subscription. And Track says the same exact thing, and they don't work together. And that's what supports wrestling. But how does it support wrestling? Well, we put out content about wrestling. But if no one's buying it, then it's not supporting it. It's monopolizing it. Instead, you should be having all your content for free, like Barstool. Have all your content for free, promoting the sport as much as possible to get as many eyes in as possible, as opposed to charging and making fewer eyes watch it for paying a price.
Yeah, and you have to pay.
You don't have to be a genius to figure that out.
No, you take that $25 worth of subscription money, you knock it down like the UFC does to maybe 10, to where everybody can get it. I mean, because you're looking at $25 a month for the whole year. Like, it's not cheap.
No,
it's not cheap. That's $300 a year, and you could sell ad money. Like,
and
get the $10.
They don't have everything. So Flow didn't have any rights to this. Track Wrestling did, because they're an NBC company. So NBC, the Olympic channel, showed the live gold medal matches, but NBC Sports Olympics showed like a 25-hour delay, or you could watch everything live on Track Wrestling. But Track Wrestling doesn't have the Olympics, and it doesn't have the NCAAs, You know, the ESPN has that and Flow. So you legitimately have to buy 2 different $25 whatever dollars subscriptions a month to get one decent coverage. And hands down, their streams are garbage. That's all these guys talk about.
Oh no, their streams are terrible. I've seen some of their streams before, and they're bad. Like, at least if I have to pay $600 a year to watch wrestling matches, then I should get good streams of it.
Exactly.
But it's terrible. I think that's where I guess
we eat our own. The sport of wrestling eats its own. That's why the numbers are falling across the world, because nobody can watch it. Nobody can watch it.
No, I guess with
you think like Dake Taylor, Jaden Cox, Snyder, Thomas Gilman, all those guys can be superstars. They all have personalities. They're all amazing dudes with amazing backstories, and they're not used.
No, I think it's a definite bummer. I think this is where the world of wrestling is, with the club team mantra, where all these people grew up paying $3,000 a month just to wrestle, and
some other rich pussy.
Yes, you just go ahead and you basically sell yourself to this. So I don't like it. I think that there needs to be a more accessible way. I think that's something that we could look into, you know. That would be kind of cool. But ultimately, $600 a year to watch wrestling, I don't know if that's worth it.
No.
I don't know if that's
I love wrestling more than anything, but it's like jiu-jitsu. The best match in the world is, you know, it can still get dry in some spots. And when you're watching 12 hours at a time, there's a lot of dry spots.
No, I agree. Anything else before we wrap this show up?
You know, no, I'm about to go get my box of movies and leave. You guys be dogging on Seagal.
All of the Seagal movies are going back with Shackelford. And on that note, for Drake, for the producer, Leighton C., and Thomas R. Shackelford, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.